The New York Giants trade receiver Kadarius Toney to the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to break it all down here on this special emergency podcast of the LockedOn Giants podcast, coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to a special emergency edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm Patricia Traynor, your host, and we have some big breaking news that just happened just a little while ago. The New York Giants have traded wide receiver Kadarius Toney to the Kansas City Chiefs in return for a third-round pick that is a compensatory pick, which I'll explain in a moment, and a sixth-round pick. All right, so both those picks coming in 2023. Not a bad haul considering the disappointment that has been Kadarius Toney. So let's talk about this really quick, how we got to this point and where the Giants go from here now that they are down another receiver in a year in which they are 6-1. All right, let's start off first with the compensation. I mentioned that it was a compensatory third-round pick. Now, I know initially it was reported to be a conditional third-round pick. That is not the case. It's been clarified by the Giants that it is a compensatory pick. Now, how can that be, you're asking, when the comp picks haven't been handed out? Well, the Kansas City Chiefs received 2 comp picks when Ryan Poles was hired by the Chicago Bears as their general manager. So teams that develop minority candidates who get hired as general managers or top executives, head coaches, and so forth, they get comp picks. And that's where the comp pick, the third-round comp pick that the Giants are going to get from the Chiefs comes into play. So with that third-round pick, now the Giants are potentially looking at another pick in the top 100. So that's a good thing to have for the Giants, a team that's going to need to do a lot more rebuilding. The other pick was a 6th-round pick, and interestingly enough, the Giants did not have a 6th-round pick scheduled for next year. They had traded that one away. Now they have a 6th-round pick, and Joe Schoen, the general manager, just building up that draft cachet in the event he wants to move up, move around, or maybe even make another move before the end of the of this year's trading deadline, which closes on November 1st. So that's the compensation that the Giants got. Again, not bad for a receiver who's only played in 12 games for this team, who doesn't have 1,000 yards to his name career-wise, and who has yet to score a touchdown. Just, a really unfortunate and rocky start and ending to Kadarius Toney's Giants career. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking for some stylish and comfortable pants or shorts, you need to check out the Bird Dogs line. I recently got a pair of their shorts and sweatpants for my husband, and they have quickly become his favorite attire thanks to the fit, quality, and most of all, comfort. No matter what he's doing, whether it be yard work, working out, or just lounging around the house, wearing Bird Dog pants and shorts have become his go-to attire. Bird Dog joggers are high quality and about $20 less than what you would find in some other brands. And did I mention that they're also comfortable? So if you're looking to combine style with comfort, affordability, and durability, go to birddogs.com today. Enter the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout, and they'll throw in a free Bird Dogs rope hat with your order of any Bird Dog sweatpants, joggers, or shorts. Bird Dogs, the most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. That website again is birddogs.com, and that promo code for your free Bird Dogs rope hat is Locked On. All right, Giant fans, this is a special emergency pod about the Kadarius Toney trade, and let's recap how we got to this point, why the Giants decided that, hey, we're going to give up on this guy and give up on the talent. Now, when Toney was initially drafted, I think the biggest selling point for him was his yards after the catch ability. He was an explosive playmaker with the ball in his hands, a guy that fit what the Giants at the time were looking to do on offense, and who was a kind of a fit for this year's offensive system. But injuries and maturity level questions all kind of caught up with the young man. We'll start with the injuries. Last year, Toney had, amongst other things, knees. I think he had an oblique issue. There might have been an ankle issue, and I can't remember, there was a hamstring issue as well. But he needed an off-season procedure. I think he had that done on his knee this year. Did not participate in the spring drills. Then he came to training camp, and hamstrings started popping up. And hamstrings have continued to pop up with this young man. And I say hamstrings because, yes, folks, it has been multiple hamstring injuries to both hamstrings. So, look, you can't make the club from the tub. The Giants, tried rehabbing him. He was on path to be back a couple weeks ago, and then he had another setback. And after a while, I guess this regime is just like, look, I don't care how much talent you had or where you were drafted. You're not going to be around if you can't contribute. So the Giants move on from Toney for that reason. Now, the other reasons that may or may not have factored into the equation, but we need to talk about them nonetheless. There were some maturity issues with Kadarius Toney. And you can go back to his rookie campaign. Now, I don't fault the kid for getting COVID. I don't fault the kid for having to miss a practice because of a personal emergency in his family. I don't fault the kid even for the great shoe issue that he had when he ended up practicing with just one shoe. Where I might fault the kid, and I'm just going off of, what I know to be true. There may have been more of an explanation to it. But when you have a new coaching staff that comes in, and this coaching staff is offering everybody a fresh start, and you're coming off of a rocky first year, you better take advantage of it. All right. And the fact that Toney wasn't at the start of the Giants off-season conditioning program. Now, even if he was physically unable to participate, which I would doubt would be the case, because at that point, you're talking about weightlifting. You're not even talking about football activities. It would have been nice if he had been at that opening. Now, we don't know, again, if he had something personal going on, maybe a family emergency. We don't know that. So it's kind of hard to really, lower the boom on him, so to speak, on that point. But if it was just a matter of, well, I'm going to work out on my own, or, I'm recovering from knee surgery and I'm going to do it on my own. No, sorry. You owe it to yourself, to your teammates, and to your new coaching staff to get in there. And yes, folks, I know it's voluntary. You can't force a player to come in, but it really wasn't a good look if, and this is important, if the reason why he didn't show up was because he just didn't feel like it, or he felt like he could do what he needed to do away from the team. Some other maturity issues, social media. I mean, his social media practices have been well documented, from calling the media some clowns to, thinly veiled complaints, if you will, about his deployment in the offense. You just can't do that. Even if you think that to be the case, to come out with that publicly, especially when you haven't done anything, that's just not a good look. But, the other issues, like throwing the punch, for example, at the Cowboys defensive back in that big game that Toney was having, that could have cost the team, his services. He wasn't suspended the following week, but, you start losing your cool and doing stuff like that. That's not a good look. And it's also not good for your team, because you could have cost your team a week of your services in a game that they needed you. So just little things like that kind of added up. Now, behind the scenes, Brian Dable and Joe Shane tried to make it work. They wanted to make it work, but ultimately there might have been little things that popped up that just finally said, caused them to say, look, enough is enough. If we get a decent enough offer, we're going to take it. And considering that, Toney physically is damaged goods, a 3rd round pick and a 6th round pick, that's not too bad for a pick that, Shane didn't make and wasn't really invested in. So that's where we're at with, how we got to this point. Now, what does it mean for the Giants salary cap and how do they replace Toney in a lineup? I'm going to tell you about that right after this. Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Life can be challenging and put a strain on our mental health when things happen beyond our control. Seeking the expertise of licensed professionals to help guide us towards a resolution is key to overcoming life's ups and downs. So if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey. And if you find that you're not a match to your assigned therapist, you can switch anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to this special emergency podcast of the LockedOn Giants podcast. I'm Patricia Traina. We're talking Kadarius Toney, and the Giants traded the receiver. So what does that mean now for the Giants salary cap? The salary cap of which the Giants, according to the NFLPA public cap report, they only have about 2.8 million left to get themselves through the rest of the year. So let's talk about the numbers. Because this is a post June 1st transaction, the Giants are going to be on the hook, obviously, for the 1.834 million prorated signing bonus that Toney had as part of his rookie deal. And they're going to be on the hook for the rest of it next year. So it's 1.834 million times 2 that they'll be on the hook for. So that comes out to, let me see, 1.84. I'm going to just quick add that up for you. 0.843 times 2. So 3.68 million. They'll be on the hook in dead money next year. As far as salary savings, Kadarius Toney had a base salary of 1.283 million. So you divide that by 18, and I'm just using my little calculator here to give you numbers here. That comes out to $71,311 per week. Now we're 8 weeks into the season now. So he gets 7 weeks worth of pay. So there's 10 weeks left. So that comes to a savings of approximately $713,118. Not a lot, but every little bit helps when you're a Giants team that's really pressed up against the cap. So that's what we're looking at as far as salary cap numbers go. The Kansas City Chiefs will take on the rest of his rookie's contract, but the prorated bonus, I believe, gets charged to the Giants cap. Now the Giants, just so you know, just looking at the contract, it looked like it was fully guaranteed. His base salary in 2021 was fully guaranteed. This year's base salary was fully guaranteed. Next year's was fully guaranteed. So yeah, the Giants get rid of that. You're not talking a big amount, but again, every little bit helps. So the Giants can now get that cap relief, slight cap relief, as they move forward. All right, now here's the big question. The Giants receiving group was kind of thin as it was. All right. Toney, Kenny Golladay, and Sterling Shepard were initially slated to be the Giants' top 3 receivers this year. Sterling Shepard's on injured reserve with an ACL. Toney is no longer here. Golladay is dealing with a knee injury, and he probably will not be back until after the bye. When, I can't tell you, but obviously at this point it's going to be after the bye week. So what did the Giants do for receiver? Do they look to trade for another receiver, or do they just sit tight with what they have and kind of, make the best of it? This is where we're kind of at with the Giants. And by the way, it's interesting. I thought of the receivers initially, I thought maybe Darius Slayton would be the guy that they would look to trade, but Slayton, even though I believe there's been some calls made or some interest expressed on him in the past by other teams, Slayton right now is really one of the receivers that the Giants have to move forward with. barring anything crazy happening. So just a really, really delicate situation for the Giants and their passing game, especially, now they don't have Daniel Bellinger, their tight end, the receiver, they're down a receiver, which, is like no big deal, I guess, because Toney wasn't playing anyway. So it's not like they're quote unquote missing anything. But it's going to be curious to see how they get through the rest of the year, given the state of their receiving targets or lack thereof. So we'll keep following it here at the Locked On Giants podcast. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be wild. So make sure you keep it here on Locked On Giants. Thank you so much for tuning into this special emergency pod. And for those of you who are watching this, Locked On Giants Live is going to be tonight at 7:30. It'll be myself. It'll be the entertainer, and it'll be Bad Dog. And I'm sure we'll have plenty more to say about the Kadarius Toney trade. Until then, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.